Morning, what you up to? Hope you're having a good day so far. 9 o'clock in the morning, almost here in western Iowa, with some wonderful rain this morning, some rumbles of thunder, and maybe some severe stuff tonight. We'll talk more about that here in just a bit, but this is the forecast for the whole country. And through the weekend, back when I was a weatherman in Lubbock, Texas, and before that, Roswell, New Mexico, and we'd have the consultants would come in and say, Mike and the weather team, you guys need to do the forecast through whatever the next weekend is because people always want to know what the weekend weather's doing. So we're going to do that because those consultants are smart. All right. Here are your hazards across the country right now. Watches and warnings. We have red flag warnings for southern Oregon. Kind of windy. Those winds hanging on a little bit. Then we get up into North Dakota. That's a flood watch. Flood watch is also up for Missouri. A little bit of dense fog once again up here in northwestern Kansas, a little bit of southern Nebraska, then a sea of orange with a little bit of red, and those are your heat advisories, so be advised it's going to be hot and very hot, and it's going to stay hot. So we'll talk more about that. A little bit of purple in there for an excessive heat warning. So I'm looking at you, actually I am looking right at you, Oklahoma and into Arkansas. And then you see a little bit of deep red there, southern Missouri into northern Arkansas with a flash flood warning there. Further to the east, also heat advisories for the Atlantic side and the southern side of the Florida Peninsula. Still have flooding issues, flood warnings for rivers from Florida, Georgia, South Dakota, or South Carolina, North Carolina, up into Virginia. So those are your watches and warnings for today's weather spotlight. All right, we're going further east today. Yesterday we did Omaha. Today we're going to do Des Moines. So from the National Weather Service office in Des Moines, scattered showers and storms this morning. That has moved out of Harlan, but moving towards Des Moines. So they're getting that rain now. Tonight is when we're expecting the possible severe weather. And you see most of Iowa either in a slight risk or a marginal risk. That would be the dark green. So additional storms expected. We could see really the main threat, large hail, damaging winds, locally heavy rain. A few tornadoes are all possible. So keeping an eye on that tonight. Here's what's going on today across the country, looking at our surface map. So that's why North Dakota has their flood watch. They have an area of heavy rain anticipated through the center part of the state. Meanwhile, here's our severe chance. We're talking northeast Kansas, southeast Nebraska, southwest Iowa, where I live, and also northwest Missouri is the bullseye there. And heavy rainfall for a lot of Iowa into Missouri and parts of Arkansas. So that's today and tonight. Stationary front draped from Kansas through Arkansas, Mississippi, Alabama. Showers and storms focused around that. Also down into Florida with a cold front pushing southward. You know, this time of year, cold fronts, sometimes they're cool fronts, but cooling off a little bit for parts of the southeast. They'll take that. Some rain showers up there in New England and Maine, and also a little bit of a focus for some showers for parts of New Mexico and far west Texas. Most of Texas staying high and very dry and very high on the temperatures. We'll start with Texas. These are highs today. 103 Wichita Falls, 103 I think that's Abilene, 102 Dallas, 100 up in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and even some 100s getting into central Kansas, also into Louisiana and Jackson, Mississippi today, 100. So you add in the humidity, those dew points mainly in the 60s and 70s in that whole area. So your feels like temperatures are going to get pretty hot. So that's why we have those heat advisories. You get further into the southeast behind that cool front, and temperatures drop off into the low 90s for parts of Alabama, into Georgia, even upper 70s, South Carolina, North Carolina, mid 80s, Virginia, and even low 80s as you get up into Pennsylvania and New York State, New England, low to mid 80s, and even some 70s way up there in Maine. We see a lot of 70s. let's say for Minnesota, upper 70s to near 80 where I live here in Iowa. We're expecting upper 70s today. It's beautiful right now, 67 degrees. Everything's wet from the rain. Mid 80s from Nebraska into the Dakotas and also into Montana. And then some 90s even for eastern Colorado. But you get on the other side of the Rockies, and much of the West is a little bit cooler. The Willamette Valley warming up from the last couple of days. We're looking for highs in the low 80s. Let's say Eugene, and then you get down into California, a lot of 90s, and then the deserts back into the 100s, and that would include Las Vegas. I believe that's 104. We're looking at 107 for Phoenix today. They're already 90 this morning. 101 for Tucson. That heat island effect in effect for Phoenix. I used to live in Phoenix. You wake up, it's 90 degrees. It's like, okay, we're going to do this today. Yes, you are. All right, tomorrow's surface map, our heavy rainfall moves a little bit further east into the Midwest, Missouri, Illinois, mainly with your severe weather threat. The heavy rain would include that area, and then a little bit further east into Indiana, parts of Kentucky. And then, so that's kind of the main weather story. That cold front in the southeast pushing a little further south, so a little bit of a break from some of the heat for parts of Florida with some scattered storms. That's what they do in the summer. They have a lot of sunshine, true, Sunshine State, but they also have a lot of pop-up thunderstorms in the afternoon in that tropical air. Maybe some showers for Mississippi, Louisiana as well. Could West Texas get a shower or storm? They sure would welcome it. Any break from the heat would be great. Oklahoma's feeling the same way. So there's a little bit of a cold front pushing through the northern plains and central plains. So temperatures cooling off a little bit behind that, but also a focus for some showers and storms. And then a little system there, Oregon-Idaho border with that low. And so keeping things cool in the Pacific Northwest with a chance of scattered showers and storms, especially eastern Oregon and the Cascades of Washington. Starting the day out tomorrow on the warm side, Texas in the 80s, upper 70s to near 80. Same for Oklahoma, upper 70s to near 80. These are lows tomorrow. Even Louisiana, upper 70s to near 80 to start the day. Mid 70s, much of the South. Upper 70s to near 80 for Florida. So getting a head start on the heat. That heat dome bulging northward. So starting the day in the upper 70s for eastern Kansas up into Missouri. And then temperatures a little bit warmer even here in Iowa to start the day, upper 60s to near 70. 60s for Minnesota. Even some 50s now as you get into South Dakota, 60s, 50s and 60s, North Dakota, and then widespread 50s, Wyoming, and up into Montana. You get on the other side of the Rockies in Wyoming, 45 to start the day, 49 over there in Idaho, and then also in eastern Oregon, 52, I believe that's Baker, 57 to start the day in Eugene. And then, of course, the desert Southwest is hot. Phoenix starting the day tomorrow. I believe that's mid to upper 80s for a low. Okay. Highs for tomorrow. It's going to get hotter in Texas. So highs in the low 100s all the way from Roswell through pretty much the whole state of Texas. A little cooler in Houston, but more humid. So the feels like is going to stay up there. Those triple digits continue in parts of Louisiana and into Mississippi, and near 100 for much of Oklahoma, although not quite as hot as today. Still hot. Arkansas, you too. And that relief from the heat in Florida, short-lived, mid 80s to near 90. Low 90s for, I think that's Tallahassee, 93, or that could be Panama City, one of those two. Low 90s getting into Georgia, then upper 80s as you head up the mid-Atlantic coast, and mid 80s even Pennsylvania, low 80s for New York State. And as you get up into New England, we're still looking at highs in the 80s, a few 70s thrown in there, 70s for the Great Lakes. That's kind of the coolest part of the country for highs tomorrow. And yeah, it's summertime still. Next 24 to 48, this is 48 hours for rainfall. So this is what we can expect through Friday morning. And again, the heavy rain here in Iowa, probably heavier rain for northern Missouri. Some areas could see 4 approaching 5 inches of rain in the next 2 days. Illinois getting a good soaking into Indiana, Wisconsin, parts of Michigan, particularly the UP, and also Minnesota getting wet. And North Dakota, as we know, we have that flood watch for today, and some areas there perhaps over 4 inches of rainfall in the next couple of days. And then mostly scattered showers, lighter amounts. Oregon, Idaho, Montana, Wyoming, Colorado, western Kansas, just very spotty. Oklahoma into West Texas. Excuse me. But definitely feeling the effects, and then a few more showers as you head into Florida and along the Gulf Coast. And then look further to the north. Some showers for western New York, also New Hampshire and into Maine. Parts of Maine could see an inch of rain or so in the next couple of days. Then moving on to Friday, during the day, we can add to those totals in these areas just widely scattered showers and storms all the way from the Great Lakes through the Midwest, Ohio Valley, into New York, Pennsylvania, further south through the South, Kentucky, Tennessee, Mississippi, Alabama, stretching a little bit to the west into Kansas and southern Nebraska, and then a small patch there, Arizona, New Mexico, and up in Montana, Idaho, Washington, scattered showers and storms with a more of a steady rain for the Cascades of Oregon. And there's Hurricane Ernesto, and churning out there in the Atlantic, not really hurting anybody, but if you're sailing or something, pay attention. Okay, let's take a look at the GFS model, shall we? And see what's happening with our reflectivity. And we're starting out, what is this? A couple hours from now. And we are seeing still some rain north of me here in western Iowa, so this isn't too far off. I live about here. The rain's a little further north right now, heading eastward. And then the heaviest stuff right now, say near Brookings, South Dakota, moving into Minnesota, and we see showers this morning in North Dakota. And as we go through the day today, this is what we see, and this is what we're watching for our chance, our chance for severe weather today. As a warm front lifts northward, bringing higher dew points, should clear out conditions because we're cloudy right now. We should see some sunshine to help heat the lower part of the atmosphere, and then we'll see some showers and storms busting out from Lincoln, Nebraska to Omaha, into Council Bluffs, Iowa, and where I live right in here. So this is where we have a chance for the heavier rain and possibly some severe weather, mainly this evening into overnight tonight. Northern Kansas getting in on some of the action, and some pretty good rains for parts of Minnesota, and there's your heavy showers for parts of North Dakota. So as we go into tonight, further into tonight, this is approaching midnight. So you see just before midnight, so tonight, later tonight, 9, 10 o'clock, heavy rainfall, severe weather possible for western Iowa as kind of the bullseye for that, heavy rainfall too. And then as we get into, this is midnight, so those showers march across the state of Iowa and also northern Missouri affected with the heaviest rainfall and the chance for some big hail, maybe some damaging winds and isolated tornadoes perhaps. Not a huge tornado threat, thankfully. And then as we get into the morning of Thursday, so tomorrow morning, those showers moving eastward and diminishing. So falling apart in Illinois. But we do see some lingering rain up here in Wisconsin, the upper peninsula of Michigan as well as we get into the day. Thursday, this is around noontime. This is afternoon. And so then the afternoon, we see more showers popping up. Another chance for western Iowa. I don't think we're looking at severe weather here, but some locally heavy rainfall. Locally heavy rainfall here for southern Indiana, southern Illinois, parts of Kentucky into Missouri, Kansas. They'll take it. I know they've had some very heavy rainfall in this area, but it's been really hot. So when it's really hot, you want a rain shower, right? And along the Mississippi River, some showers, and then some popcorn storms up here for parts of the Rockies and further into the Pacific Northwest. And as we go through the day, this is later Thursday night, I should say. So we see those storms moving into Kentucky, Illinois, Indiana, Missouri, parts of Oklahoma near Tulsa again. You saw that little blip down here. Let me go back. There's a little shower for you, Louisiana. Maybe some relief from the heat. That would be nice, at least in isolated areas. This is Thursday night, almost midnight. Yeah, it's about midnight here. So we see some locally heavy rainfall for parts of Kentucky into northern Tennessee, not too far here from I'm trying to think of what I'm thinking of, but yeah, here's Springfield, Illinois. Let's go with that. Some showers here, and even South Bend, Indiana, with some rain moving into Michigan as well. And then by Friday morning, the rain is on the light side, mainly Great Lakes, Ohio Valley, a few showers down here in the south. And then later in the day on Friday, we do see more of that activity in the heat of the day pop up. This low over Michigan, and we see the showers and the heavier showers back through the Ohio Valley back into the south, which is nice. They will take that. Here's a little storm for you, Oklahoma, if this comes exactly true. And as we get midnight Friday night right here, showers diminishing, mainly focused over the Great Lakes and moving into the east now as that low continues to move eastward. So Saturday, that's our concentration of showers, a few storms for the southeast during the heat of the day on Saturday night. Some pretty good showers and storms here for the south. Also, parts of the Four Corners getting some good rains. Utah, I'm looking at you Saturday night and into Sunday morning. Our low is kind of the main player here with a few showers in New England and the Northeast. And then as we get through the night, Sunday night, and into Monday, kind of quiet. All right, that gets us through the weekend. Here are your highs on Saturday. Again, the brutal heat continues for that big dome of high pressure centered over Texas and Oklahoma, mainly Texas now. 104 for Roswell. I know that's New Mexico. 100 for Albuquerque. Hee-haw. 102 Lubbock and Amarillo. 106 Abilene, 105 Wichita Falls, 105 Dallas, yikes, 102 Austin and San Antonio. So yeah, hot. There's a 101 for you there in central Louisiana, mid to upper 90s across the south. And then you get further north, it's cooling off, but warmer than it has been. So we're looking at more low to mid 80s here in Iowa, for example. We haven't seen 80s for over a week. It's been wonderful. So we are going to warm back to what averages for this time of year. 80s extending into Minnesota, 70s mostly for Wisconsin and also Michigan, and also northern Indiana. So that's kind of the cool spot would be the Great Lakes. Temperatures warming up as you head east into New England. And then, we're looking at mid 90s along the Snake River in Idaho. Also some 80s and 90s for eastern Oregon and Washington. 70s, though, for the Willamette Valley and for western Washington. And then back into the desert southwest, it is hot. Probably hotter than usual for this time of year, but it's not unusual to be this hot this time of year. 108 Phoenix, 103 for Tucson. Sunday's highs. Not a big change here. 80s for the Upper Plains, 70s for the Great Lakes, 80s for the Mid-Atlantic, 70s further north for New England and New York State, some 90s in the South and Florida, then upper 90s as you get into Mississippi, low 100s into Louisiana, and for Texas, it's still very hot. Near 100 for parts of Oklahoma, 90s in the Central Plains at Kansas, then 80s to near 90 for the Dakotas and into the plains of Montana. Cooler as you head on to the western side of the Rockies, although 90s for, Idaho, 92 for Boise looks like. And then 80s for eastern Oregon, eastern Washington, 70s western Oregon and western Washington, 80s for northern California, approaching 90s as you get down towards LA and the deserts of California into the southwest, including Las Vegas, temperatures over 100. So There you go for your weekend weather. And here are your 6 to 10 day trends for temperatures: above average, well above average, best chance for above average, kind of where we're seeing those hot temperatures from the desert Southwest into Texas and parts of Oklahoma into Louisiana, and then bulging through the Rockies. The cool spot, really the coolest spot, would be centered around the Great Lakes, but into parts of the Midwest all the way down through Kentucky and West Virginia. So a little bit of a break from the heat there. So that is good. And the West Coast seeing cooler than average too. And then our rain, it's rain this time of year. Won't be too long till we're talking about snow, but not yet. So Pacific Northwest with the best chance of above average rainfall. And then also near Salt Lake City, parts of Wyoming into Colorado. Again, your best chances for above average rainfall. And then, but that also stretches down from the deserts of California up through the Central Rockies into the Northern Plains. And then along the East Coast, including Florida, a chance for above average precipitation. And then a big swath of below average precipitation. So parts of New Mexico, Texas, Oklahoma, Arkansas, mostly high and dry. It doesn't mean it won't rain here. It just means that the chances of below average precipitation is high. That's probably what's going to happen. All right, that takes you through the weekend. So thank you for tuning in. We'll update you again tomorrow. Thanks for tuning in, The Weather Mike.